He's the winner of multiple Tonys, Grammys, and more. Seth Doane is talking with a true legend of Broadway, composer Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Do you know how many Tonys you or your productions have won?
Oh my gosh. Do you know, I don't know off the top of my head.
That's saying something.
We counted. Andrew Lloyd Webber has won 7 and earned more than 20 Tony nominations. He's had an unbroken string of shows on Broadway for the last 43 years, and he likes to keep audiences guessing.
People do love to put you into a box, and they say, that's what he or she does.
Do you think you are in a box?
Well, the point is that I can't be put in one. Because I wrote some Paganini variations. I set T.S. Eliot's poems with a musical called Cats. I then wrote a Requiem Mass at the same time as I was doing a silly pop musical about trains. And then I wrote Phantom of the Opera.
Add to that Evita, School of Rock, and Jesus Christ Superstar, the 1970s rock opera phenomenon that launched his career, one of many collaborations with lyricist Tim Rice. There have been more than half a dozen film adaptations of his work.
Don't cry for me, Argentina.
Not to mention Grammys, an Emmy, and an Oscar. His latest composition was for a stage of a different sort.
God save the King!
The coronation of King Charles III.
The King said, would you write the anthem for the coronation? And I wrote it.
How does that happen? The King calls you?
Well, I was actually having a dinner with him and the Queen.
As one does.
But he's got a lot of interest in the same sort of causes that I have, you know. And he said, well, what about an anthem from you?
It's a far cry from Cats.
Have you been an alumnus of heaven and hell?
I have a deeply serious side, but I also do enjoy having a bit of fun.
So what's the secret? How did you avoid being put in that box?
No secret. I'm not in it. I just write what I want.
The man who helped define the Broadway blockbuster also says what he wants.
You could get a Tony Award for putting up a bit of money and saying you're a producer. Somebody puts $20,000 into a play or something, and then that play wins best play, and they can say, well, I'm a Tony Award-winning producer.
The Tony Award people are not going to like that comment.
But it needs to be addressed, because it is a bit silly. There was that moment when sort of 30 people would come on stage because they're all producers.
There were no Tony nominations this year for Lloyd Webber's newest production, Bad Cinderella, a playful alternative twist on the fairy tale. It closed prematurely this past week, ending his decades-long run with the show on Broadway.
I'm completely baffled how a show in London could have probably had the best reviews of my career. What the nerve it touched in New York, which made everybody feel so bad about it.
It got some pretty scathing reviews.
Yeah, I know,
the New York Times wrote, bring eye plugs, bring earplugs.
I haven't read any of the reviews.
Really?
No, because my son, he died, on the day after it opened.
Nicholas Lloyd Webber was just 43. A Grammy-nominated composer, he died in March after battling gastric cancer.
I don't think it really has completely sunk in yet.
How do you deal with something like that?
Well, I'm not sure I've dealt with it very well.
In what way?
I don't know. I mean, it's very hard to put into words, but I think about it a lot, and we hugely miss him.
He dedicated the final Broadway performance of The Phantom of the Opera to his late son. On the stage with us in New York a few days earlier, Lloyd Webber reflected on the show's record-breaking 35-year run.
What resonates so much about this production?
I I don't know. I mean, if I knew this why Phantom has really touched so many people, then I'd do it again.
It remains a mystery to you?
It's not that. It's that it's so. There isn't a formula.
And the 75-year-old composer says it's getting harder to put on a show here, creating barriers to experimentation.
I'm a bit worried about the future of Broadway. The running costs are so incredibly high. So Broadway is going to turn into the equivalent of Fifth Avenue, where, you know, if you want to create a brand, you put it on Broadway, knowing you're not ever going to really make any much money in it, but they have to be there.
And then there's the price of tickets.
It can't sustain as it stands. It'll just be very, very big hits that, and it bothers me.
Of course, Phantom is one of those very, very big hits. It grossed an estimated $6 billion worldwide.
And let's give them the chords. There we go.
There it is.
Profits from the musical helped fund the $100 million renovation of his Theatre Royal, Drury Lane in London.
Well, architecture's always been my first love.
He's investing in the future of the industry he's helped shape for the past half-century.
The last minute we put it into Cats.
It was a last-minute decision?
Yes.
To add this song to Cats?
Yes, very last minute.
As a composer, he uses music to control the evening.
Keys are really vitally important. The music of the night is in fact in D flat, so it's, and it's a wonderful key, this, because it's so warm.
Slowly, gently, night unfurls its splendor.
Audiences may not recognize the musical devices employed by a great composer, but can most certainly relish them.
I love D flat. Don't Cry for Me is in D flat. And I swear to you,
Can you believe you play these songs? They're all so memorable. They're huge songs, and they've all come from you.
that's kind of what I do. I mean, I do love melody. Melody for me is everything. Melody and story.